And I realised that I don't work for money, I work for satisfaction. Money's important, don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean everything's free in life, but money's just a measuring stick.
Yeah. It's the oil that sort of lubricates the machine, isn't it, really?
It is. But I work for satisfaction more so than money. Maybe money's a secondary or a third goal.
Yeah.
But I work for the satisfaction of seeing people achieve their goals and achieving my goals.
Welcome to the Get Invested podcast, where we share conversations I've enjoyed with experts from all walks of life to uncover their secret know-how on where they invest their time, their skills and their money, and the benefits this has created. Get Invested helps you to live more, work less, and leave a legacy by investing now. Listen to the show to discover top tips on how to get started, to make the most of your investment journey, and ultimately to be living the dream. More episodes can be found on iTunes or at khgroup.com.au/Get Invested. Thanks for listening, and let's get invested. Welcome back to Get Invested, Freedom Fighters. Today I just want to start with a quick extract from my book, The Freedom Formula, which really sets the tone for our discussion today. And it goes like this. Like it or lump it, but in our current westernised capitalised world, money makes the world go round. Unfortunately, money and investment seem to have become dirty words in our culture. To invest and make money is somehow equated to the pursuit of evil. However, every single one of us is investing every second of every day, whether we are doing it consciously or unconsciously. We all make daily choices on where we decide to invest our time, our money, and our interest. Money is the lifeblood enabler of our choices and the fuel for our freedom. For me, it buys time, influence, and a voice to do good. Now, you may not want to acknowledge it, but see how long you survive without money. Because in the words of Zig Ziglar, money isn't everything, but it ranks right up there with oxygen. The cold hard reality is that if you don't master money, it will master you. Now, that really sets the tone for today's discussion. Because if you want to master money, then you need to have a really great accountant on your team. I'm telling you, they're going to make or break your financial future. And that's why we're having a chat today with Tony Dutton. Now, Tony owns and runs Concept Accounting in South Australia, and he's got offices in Aldinga, Morford Vale, and up in Roxby Downs to service the mining community. He's been my personal accountant for over 15 years. And why is that? Well, firstly, he walks his own talk, so he doesn't ask you to do what he's not doing himself, so he knows the ins and outs of business, the ins and outs of property, which is where my personal interest is. He's also very good at what he does, but more importantly, he's down to earth, he's got a great sense of humour, and he explains very complex financial concepts in a really easy to understand way that even I can understand. So he's a great bloke, and he's actually someone who, because of the respect I have for him that's developed over the last 15 odd years, he's actually become a friend. So we're going to have a great chat today, and during our discussion you're going to learn how the shyest person in the school has become successful, what it takes to be successful, and he shares with us a much better definition of FIFO. And it's not fly in, fly out, it's something that you're really going to enjoy. And there's a bit of a credo for how he treats situations, so listen out for that. And he also talks about the importance of having a really clear plan. Now, we shared a lot of laughs in this really great conversation, so grab yourself a cup of coffee and please enjoy with me, Tony Dutton. Well, back on deck with Get Invested. Today I've got the enormous pleasure to have a chat to my accountant and what's become a very good friend of mine. And he's dumb enough to have me as his friend, which probably says a fair bit about his patience and persistence as a person before we even get into the conversation. Tony, welcome aboard, mate.
Thanks, John. Bushy, appreciate it. Appreciate being here. A little bit nervous, but let's have a chat and see where it goes.
An accountant being nervous?
Yeah.
God, I thought the only accountants that were nervous were the ones that's standing in front of the ATO, mate.
I'm dealing with words, not numbers here, so that's why. Numbers, I'm on my home ground. I'm comfortable. But
No, awesome, mate. Well, for the sake of those who don't know you, Tony, can you just give us a bit of a rundown on who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bushy. I'm an accountant, as you mentioned. Been a tax agent for 15 years or so.
Okay.
Run a practice that's got offices at Morford Vale, south of Adelaide, Aldinga, south of Adelaide, and a little place called Roxby up in the middle of Australia. Mining community, Olympic Dam, lots of people know it as. I've been investing and interested in property since I was, 20, 21 or thereabouts.
Okay.
Bought my first property and really have a passion for that. And that's from that property, that's lots of things have just grown and gone different places from there. And still collecting and plan to die with a handful of it if I can.
Right, well, let's leap straight in there. You talked about the fact that you've first property at 21?
Is it 21 or 22? It was thereabouts.
Okay.
Somewhere. I should remember, but I don't.
Well, take us through the thinking process at that point in time, and what were you doing, and why did you decide property was it, and what did you end up doing?
The thinking process at 21 probably wasn't great.
This could be dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know. You might want to cut this bit out. I was having a great time in the world, and I just wanted a secure home base. So it wasn't an investment as far as I was concerned. In fact, it was a good investment. But my thought process was I need a home.
Yeah, okay.
I need somewhere just to have a secure place to call home, place to go to, and something that I can start paying off and build. Would you believe my first house, I think, cost me $54,000.
$54,000.
And that's dollars, not pounds. That's Australian dollars.
You still got it?
No.
Yeah.
No, I did sell that one. That was in a country area, and I sold that maybe 10 years later. Didn't make any money out of it, which taught me my first lesson in terms of being selective about where you buy. But it was always for home. I paid it off in 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And that sort of leveraged me into the next one. Yeah,
well, good forced savings, I suppose, in a way. At that time, can I ask where the property was?
Yeah, it was in a place called Wilmington, up in the Flinders Ranges, that you may or may not have heard of.
Yep.
It's in the Flinders, about half an hour outside of Port Augusta, half an hour outside of Port Pirie.
Yeah, okay.
Little town, about 1,000 people.
Yeah, and you were living and working there at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I was working in Port Augusta, living in Wilmington, and really enjoying the drive through the hills.
Yeah,
on the way
nice
to
one.
work.
Awesome. Well, let's step back a little bit from there, and perhaps get you to take me through your journey so far, focusing on when you finished school, what did you decide to do? Why did you decide to do it? What were your motivations? And then where has that led you to get you to where you are now, mate? Can you sort of walk us through that history?
Yeah, you may not want to hear it, but I'll walk you through it.
This could be worth something.
Left school, and you're not to replay this to my kids, but I left school at 16.
Yeah.
Didn't enjoy it at all. Couldn't wait to get out. So my parents' condition was, if you finish year 11 and you find a job, you're out. I tried to leave at the end of year 10 and they sort of dragged me back.
Where was this, mate?
This was in Port Augusta.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'd attended, I think, 9 schools.
Wow.
So I had a very transient upbringing.
Yeah.
And had attended a range of schools from really, really good quality private schools, public schools in country areas.
Yeah, what, they kept throwing you out? Or?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So your family was moving around at that time pretty much?
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of different areas, South Australia, New South Wales.
Okay. So you're moving every couple of years-ish sort of thing?
Yeah, every couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, well, can I ask what your folks were doing at that time?
Yeah, Dad's, he's now a retired Anglican priest.
Okay.
So he was working as a priest and went from, Adelaide, Broken Hill, places throughout New South Wales, and then ended up in Port Augusta where I left school.
Yep.
Left at 16, as I said, didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Got a job and worked as an unqualified accountant.
Yep.
Sometimes I think you just fall into things, fortunately, that you probably have a little bit of passion, a bit of drive for.
Yeah. But you sort of obviously had a passion for numbers and whatnot, or it became easy to you? Is that...
I think I just fell into what I did well.
Yeah.
So maybe it became easy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. But I was fortunate enough to fall into something that I enjoy.
Yep.
And could do reasonably, and it provides with a reasonable living. So
yeah. So it was accounting pretty much right from the get-go then, mate?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
In the early days, I did accounting. I've done fits and starts of builder's labourer.
Yep.
I've been a brickies labourer for a few weeks here and there.
Okay.
I've shorn one sheep in my life.
And hamstrung it?
I don't know what they did when I left the shearing shed, but I'm pretty sure when we had lamb chops for dinner, that might have been the one I shore. It wasn't pretty, and my back hurt for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was...
Yeah, so I had a similar experience, mate, coming from a country background, and I think I sort of got sacked.
Yeah, okay.
Without me realising I got sacked at the time.
Well, we might have been in the same shearing shed. Because
So, talking about you, because like you, I'd moved around a fair bit as a kid, and I guess without realising it at the time, what it taught me was that I found it reasonably easy to make friends, because I was having to do it every couple of years, changing places, changing schools, changing people, which a lot of people don't actually do much of. In reality, how do you think that's affected or influenced you in terms of your ongoing journey, mate?
I perhaps don't think at the time I found it as easy to make friends as you did. I reckon that I was the world's shyest 18-year-old. Literally almost compulsively shy, where I wouldn't approach a conversation with a stranger.
Right, okay.
Changed now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got thrown in the deep end a lot through my career.
Yeah.
And had to sink or swim.
Yeah, okay.
But was probably, and you might not believe it to talk to me now, and we're mates. We've had lots of evenings together and lunches and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I was probably the shyest 18 to 20-year-old you would ever meet.
Crikey's,
very shy.
I would never have picked a mate, so that's really interesting, actually.
But the transient sort of lifestyle made me become very adaptable.
Yeah.
I think that you learn very quickly that whatever the situation you get thrown into at the time, you learn to work it out, and it's sink or swim. I think life is sink or swim. You've got a choice.
Yep, no, it's spot on.
You can run with it, or you can throw your hands in the air and give up. And I've never given up yet.
Yeah, no, awesome, mate. So you fell into accounting in some capacity at that time, and you're in Port Augusta.
No, that was in a place called Gladstone, also in the Flinders Ranges.
Oh, yeah.
And of all places, I was working as an accountant for the church.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting upbringing for a bloke like me that probably speaks my mind. A lot of four-letter words come out from time to time.
We'll talk about some of them later.
We'll try not to today. But I worked for the church and spent about 2 years working there, and did a bit of study at the same time. And after 2 years, realised I was getting bored.
Okay.
And it was time to move on and do something different.
Yep.
So
where did that lead to?
Yeah, it was a contrast. It really was. I ended up as an accountant for a motor vehicle dealership.
Good grief.
Yeah. How's that for a change? Yep. Now, did I grow up quickly then?
I bet.
I was 18 years old, going on 19. I applied for a job as an accountant in a motor vehicle dealership, a Holden dealership in Port Augusta.
Okay.
Worked for an interesting sort of fella.
You're being polite now?
Yeah. Interesting's my subtle word.
Yep, we'll note that one.
And after 3 months of working there, I was 18, maybe 19, and he said, I'm going away for 3 months, you're in charge.
Wow.
I said, hang on, what are you talking about? There's 20 people working here. I've been here the shortest time of anyone. He said, no, you're in charge.
Interesting. How'd that go?
Shit. No, it was tough. It was really, really tough.
I bet. There'd be a lot of guys that have probably been with the business a long time going, what's this Johnny come lately telling me what I should be doing sort of thing? Do you mean? Is that...
Yeah, yep, it was. And there's a lot of people then coming to me saying, I need you to make a decision on things I had no experience or no knowledge of. A car salesman would come to me and say, I want to appraise this car or do a deal on this one. What's this car worth? I said, I've got no idea. What do you want it to be worth?
Yeah, interesting.
And those guys make decisions very quickly and have to. You know, you've got a client standing there negotiating for a car sale and all sorts of things. Probably the toughest one was I went out to the workshop one day to see what the workshop manager was doing.
Yep. And
I walked past. You know, you walk past and you look at something and your eyes don't really register. And I walked past and I turned around and walked back, and there's a car that's fallen off a hoist. So this...
Nice.
Seriously, yep. The nose was way up in the air, the back end had fallen off a hoist. And
that was a client's car that had...
Yep.
Oh, good grief. How do you handle that one?
Yeah, we closed the door first to stop anyone else coming in and out. Because at that stage, pre-mobile phones, but one guy had gone home to get his camera to take a picture.
Yeah, right.
Fortunately, no one was hurt. That was the biggest thing. But
yeah,
yeah, we closed the place down, and I think we had to hire a crane to come in and lift the car out.
Ooh, dearie me. So no one was injured, but
no one was hurt. No one was injured, but I had to make the phone call to the owner of the car. So,
ouch.
Yeah, listen, mate.
Oops.
I want to have a chat. There's a bit of a problem with the car, and you know that holiday you were going on in the morning?
So how did you resolve that, mate? I mean, thrown into that situation and having to think on your feet, what was the outcome?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably would have handled it better now than I did at the time. I think I put off that phone call to the customer.
Who wouldn't?
I didn't really want to make it.
Yeah.
And no one else was making it, but I was the bloke at the top end of the scale at that stage, rightly or wrongly, and no one else wanted to make that phone call. So, I probably shouldn't have put that off for the hour or so that I did, trying to get some knowledge or thoughts about what the options were.
Well, but at least going in prepared and having a think about it and talking to some of the other guys that have been in the business makes a fair bit of sense. Yep. Yeah, that's a fairly challenging position to be thrown in fairly early in the piece. But I think you've mentioned to me in the past, mate, there was some pretty interesting practices when it came to people's car keys.
Yes.
And where they might have ended up.
I've told you that story, obviously.
With us, mate?
Yeah, look, that was back in, this will date me roughly, but that was back in the late 80s.
Yep.
And it was just at that stage that life, particularly in second-hand car yards and that sort of stuff, they were just phasing out the really dodgy practices and trying to professionalise it.
Okay.
Some of the people working in that had been around for 20, 30 years and just weren't going to go down without a fight. So you'd get the odd car salesman, and it wouldn't happen these days, but it's quite funny in hindsight that would throw take their car keys, take it for a drive and offer you a price for your trade-in.
Yep.
And if you didn't accept that, they'd literally throw your keys up on the roof and say, I suggest you take it because I don't know how you're getting home. And I do remember watching this happen and said, shit, I'm in charge. The Consumer Affairs complaint's going to come to me.
That's right.
So I do remember going to get a ladder out of the workshop, and I'm scared of heights. It wasn't an easy thing to do, but climbing up on the roof, literally petrified of heights, 6 feet off the ground, and I'm in trouble.
Good grief.
And climbing up to get this guy's keys down and saying, sorry, sir, I don't quite know what to say, but here's your keys.
How did they react to that, mate? When that happened, because that was obviously a bit of a practice that some of the guys would use if they weren't going to get the deal. What was the response to it, mate? Did they end up buying the car?
No, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't come back either. I think, unless I can't remember anyone bought a car from that situation. There was one guy that did it, and I think I suggested to him that it was probably time to look for a career somewhere else or doing something else.
There's probably a locksmith down the road that could use your skills. I put him on commission.
Speaking of locksmiths, I did work with one guy that had previously spent a bit of time assisting a car thief.
Really?
And he could open the 20 or 30 used cars on the yard without keys in about 15 minutes.
Good grief. What, using the coat hanger thing, or he had it more...
coat hanger and that, it's about a centimetre wide packing tape that they put around cartons.
Yeah.
Again, it wouldn't work these days. Cars have changed too much, and the technologies and the anti-theft devices are quite different. But in those days, it was a lot of 80s type cars, and he could open every car.
Good grief.
Yeah. It's incredible to watch him go. I challenged him one day. He told me how good he was. I said, all right, mate, I'll bet you a case of beer or whatever it was.
Yep.
And he opened every used car on the yard.
Every car on the yard.
Every car on the yard. He said, I can start them for you, but that does damage to the cars. So
He had a pretty lucrative business, no doubt.
Well, I think he'd gotten out. I think he had.
Yeah.
I hope he had.
Really interesting, mate. So you're at the car yard for how long?
I reckon I spent 7 to 8 years there.
Yeah, okay. So that would have been a baptism of fire, and you would have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of that industry, no doubt.
Yeah, I did. I really loved it. It's a very fast-paced, it's a very busy environment.
Yeah, pretty competitive one too, no doubt.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah.
It what it did do is it taught me to come out of my shell and be less shy. That's probably what I credit it with the most.
Yeah.
It made me to be able to have a conversation or to have the confidence to talk to and approach people. And the other thing it did make me do is not to prejudge people.
Yes, very good comment. So let's talk about that, because a lot of people do, even now, judge on first appearances and can very often get it very wrong. Can you sort of just walk us through a couple of instances you might remember in relation to that be interesting to have a listen to? Yeah,
there's a couple of good stories in there. One guy came in. This one's quite funny. Came in, pair of tradie shorts, thongs, t-shirt or a singlet. I think it was singlets in those days. We didn't have the skin cancer knowledge that we do now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
guys on building sites would
singlets.
Put a pack of fags under the shoulder strap. And none of the salesmen would talk to him. And he was looking at a new top-of-the-range Holden in those days.
Okay.
And the salesman wouldn't talk, so he came in and had a chat to me. And I said, yeah, I'll show you the car. I don't know everything about it, but I'll show you the car. And we got to talking. I said, look, is this really the sort of car you look like you're a tradie? You sure you don't want to use? He said, no. He said, this is what I want. So it's either a Statesman or a Calais or something similar.
Yep.
I said, yeah. No worries. He said, can I take it for a drive? So I took him for a drive, and he said, all right, I want one. I said, really? Have you got a trade-in? He said, yeah, I'd like to trade my Rolls Royce.
Whoa! Holy moly. He'd be getting change almost, wouldn't he?
Well, old Rollses aren't worth much.
No, okay.
Surprisingly.
Right.
Yeah, but it was an interesting to have a look and have a drive of his Rolls and do a deal. But you can pick up old... We're getting off the track now.
No.
You can pick up old Rolls Royces for about 20 grand.
Can you really?
Probably cost you more to do the servicing on it.
Yeah.
Than what it would to buy the car. But
yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're not worth huge money. So I sold him a car, and my commission on that car, I think, was more than my week's wages.
Wow. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when it looked like it was getting serious, there's 3 salesmen wanted a piece of the action.
Yeah, they're all over you like a rash then, I'd imagine.
The other one that I recall salesman prejudging was a young guy, and we're talking 30 years ago.
Yep.
Still a friend to this day.
Yeah, awesome.
Young guy came in. He looked like a school-age kid. He was, in fact, a school-age kid.
Yeah.
And wanted to look at new SS. So that's the sports car, the top-of-the-range V8, all the sports pack with mags and everything.
Yeah.
And none of the salesmen would talk to him. They said, mate, you can't afford it.
Grow up and come back when you've got some money sort of thing.
Get a job, whatever it is, and come back.
Yep.
So I had a chat to this guy and said, look, I'm happy to show you the car. I don't think I can let you drive it, but I'll show you the car, and have a chat. And he said, I can afford it. I said, yeah, that's all right. So showed him. I think I took him for a drive in the car.
Okay.
And that guy bought a car off me, a new car every year for the next 5 years.
There you go. There you go.
And wouldn't talk to anyone other than me.
Of course. You'd give him the time of day.
He'd ring me. He lived up at Woomera. Woomera is sort of the old rocket range up in the middle of Australia.
The US base was there for a long time.
Yeah, but it was a US base at that time.
Yep.
And he'd ring me from Woomera and say, can you get me a new SS and I'll come down in 2 weeks and pick it up.
The other guys would have been kicking themselves, no doubt.
Yep. And that guy is still a friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Lives in Queensland now, and we catch up and speak about once a week, once a fortnight.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you must have got to a point then that you're ready to do something else. What was your thinking at that time, and where did that lead you to?
I think at that stage, towards the last couple of years, I got the itch. I'd always had a passion for business.
Yep.
I wanted to be in business myself.
Yep.
And I looked at various options, and I was all of 25, 26, maybe 26.
Yep.
And I'd realised that without some education, I couldn't go much further in my life.
Okay.
So what I'd neglected at 16, I suddenly had to catch up on at 26.
Eating humble pie with the folks, no doubt.
No.
Not really?
No, I think they were just surprised.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
I think they were surprised when I said I'm chucking up work and I'm going to go to uni.
Awesome.
And they said, "Hey," well, they to their credit, they never criticised me. They said, "All right, you have a wife and child.
Yep.
How are you going to make this work?"
Yep.
I said, "Well, I've got some part-time work in what I'd been doing.
Yep.
I'd been working for dealerships. I knew all the various software and bits and pieces inside out. So I became a full-time student and a part-time worker and put myself through an accounting degree."
Wow. So that would mean, 3-4 years?
Or
more?
I did the first 2 years full-time.
Okay.
And then I did the final year. I had a break. I was over it.
Yeah, sure.
I found it a big change going back to study after 10 years of working.
I bet.
And all the other things I was doing. And went back to study. A couple of years, I thought, life had changed. Moved to Adelaide, bought another house. I'm not sure how the banks loaned me money as a student. I have no idea.
Good call. Yeah, well, there was a time there where if you had a pulse, you had any form of money that was like, right, how much do you want?
Yeah.
So it was pretty good timing as far as that goes. Yeah, okay. So you big move, actually. So married.
Married, a baby.
Got a baby.
And
right, I'm going to go back to uni.
And chucked up a job.
Yeah, wow.
Went to uni. I've always believed in calculated risks.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that if you're not prepared to risk anything, you go nowhere quickly in life, or you take a very long-term conservative approach. And I could see part-time uni was going to take me 10 or more years.
Yep.
Life has a habit of getting in the way if you let it.
Yes. Yeah, good call. Very good call, mate.
So it was time to change things around a little bit and do that. Loved it. Had no money to my name, but owned my house. Part of the terms of doing it was I'd paid off my first mortgage by that stage.
Perfect.
So I had a house.
So by investing in the first house and paying it off effectively, that to some degree
opened doors,
gave you the opportunity to do that,
and it gave me the flexibility to develop myself and grow and invest in myself.
Yeah. So the investing in the skills was obviously a recognition that you came to, and getting to that point of going, right, if I don't do something education-wise, then I've got limited options. Yeah.
It was a realisation that hurt. It sort of rocked me, and I thought, I can do my job, I can do it really well. I'm learning lots as I go, but I was capped. Yeah. I was 26 years old and capped out.
Yeah, okay.
And couldn't go much further. I found I'd applied for jobs and not even got an interview.
Yeah, there you go.
And I realised that I needed to buy some or invest in some capital for myself, and that at the time was education that I acknowledge I'd let lapse at the time.
Yeah, awesome, mate. So went to uni, got the degree. What was the next step from there, mate? What did you invest in from that point?
I did invest in another property.
Yeah.
Which I bought a house in Adelaide and eventually moved to there.
Right.
I do remember having the house up in Wilmington, the house in Adelaide, and saying, well, I'll advertise them both for rent.
Yep.
Whichever one rents will live in the other one. I really wasn't geographically tied to anywhere.
No, of course.
And would you believe both houses were rented within half an hour of each other?
You're kidding.
No. So
where did that leave you?
I just had to rent a house.
So you became an investor without
I was a
knowing
nomad,
it.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. So you were the original rent investor without even knowing that existed at the time, probably.
Yeah. Back in the 1800s or thereabouts, I was it.
Classic, mate. So you went and got a job then as an accountant, or where did that lead you to?
Yeah, I got offered another job at a dealership in Adelaide.
Okay.
And I wasn't convinced it was for me.
Yeah.
But I took it on. It was a big increase in pay.
Okay.
It was a big increase in responsibility. instead of running one dealership, I was the head accountant for 6.
Wow.
And with a staff of maybe 20.
Okay.
Loved it.
Yep.
Loved it. Commuted to work. Finished my study on the train. I think I did the last bit of study.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had an hour. I don't handle traffic very well in the car. I don't have the patience for red lights.
No, I'm like you.
They bring out the worst in me.
Same.
It's not a pretty sight at all. Red lights and traffic.
Patience in that regard is not my best friend.
No, patience in any regard's not my best friend. But. So I did the first year of it. I think I finished my uni sitting on the train. I thought I got 2 hours a day of commuting. I might as well finish the study, and that's 2 hours a day of studying that I won't get when I get home.
Awesome.
So I finished uni. I have to say my interest in uni was a lot stronger at the beginning than it was at the end.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's a long, long road. You've done your share. You know the...
Yeah.
Yep, you've done a lot more than I have. It's always fascinating at the start, and you have to do it. I've got no problem, but I was aiming for distinctions and achieving distinctions, high distinctions. I remember arguing with one of the lecturers over why he'd only given me a distinction instead of a high distinction.
How did that go?
Yeah, you can't win those arguments, I found.
he who holds the goal makes the rules.
Yep, I've learned to pick my fights a little bit.
Classic, mate. So you jumped on board with the string of car yards by the sounds of things.
I did a couple of years there.
Yep. It was probably a good leverage of your past experience, but also an opportunity as an accountant to broaden your skill base there. So a pretty good fit, actually, really.
Yeah, it was a really good fit. It worked. I fitted in, sort of walked in, and I was productive from 3 minutes after getting there.
Yeah. And
helping them out. I knew the people. I knew the industry. I knew a lot of... It was an easy fit.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. I did that for a couple of years.
Okay.
And was then offered a job at a manufacturing place.
Okay.
And
what was the interest there?
Less 2 hours a day of commuting.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Right.
Yep. It was 5 minutes from home.
Brilliant.
So I'd actually be home by 4:45 instead of 6:30.
Wow.
A day off once a fortnight.
You had a young family then.
I had
too.
A young family.
Yeah.
I've never done so much house maintenance as I did in that year. It was a bit like the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I'd finish painting one end of the house and start again at the other. I'd get home in daylight and say, "What's all this about?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was great, but at work I was professionally bored.
Right.
I was bored.
Once you got things set up, it was pretty much just a maintain and...
It was maintain. At that stage, you could see the writing on the wall. Manufacturing was going to decline.
Yep.
It's declined. There was a very... I thought there was a very poor attitude at work and with the co-workers and colleagues about we can't change anything. Eventually it'll all fall over here anyway, so why are we bothering?
Really? It's almost a doomsday type attitude.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And I couldn't do that.
Not a very good environment to spend 8 hours a day in.
Not for me, no. I think the first week I was there, I remember the managing director walking down the corridor past my office and saying, "What are you doing here at 5 o'clock?" I said,
kidding, he's the MD.
He's the MD. He said, "Finance leave." He said, "If I stand in the corridor, I'll get knocked over by the finance team."
Good grief.
Mate, I just want to finish what I'm doing. I'm trying to get my head around this. It's new and different. I'm reading. And he said, oh no, it's good. It's good. I'm just surprised.
She didn't say a lot about the culture.
No. So I did a year.
Yep.
And then set up business for myself.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty big step, mate. So you obviously weren't enjoying the environment where you were. Rather than perhaps go with one of the big accounting firms or a role somewhere else, why have a crack at your own business?
I was ready to challenge myself.
Okay.
I needed the challenge. I've recognised throughout my life that I need to challenge myself.
Yep.
I wasn't ever going to be comfortable sitting in the sort of environment where I couldn't live or die by the sword.
Yes.
So, right or wrong, I was going to have a go.
Yep.
I thought the worst case scenario is I shut up shop and go and look for another job.
Well, that's it. What's the worst thing that can happen, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think anyone was going to shoot me for getting it wrong. Now, in hindsight, that may not be the right answer, but at the time I was ready. I'd come out of a fairly big environment with an attitude or an ethic that I really wasn't comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I was ready to wear out a couple of pairs of shoes, banging on doors and forcing my way in the door.
Well, that's, again, being the shy person at school, that's a major leap. So the car industry has obviously knocked the dents out of that for you.
I knocked a few dents in the car industry. And maybe that's a good way of putting it. It knocked a few dents out of me.
Yeah, well, and I guess you mentioned already that you're not scared to say what you think. And I can see that having to dance to someone else's tune would be fairly frustrating for you. And
don't get me wrong. There's rules we have to follow in life.
Yeah.
But to me, they have to make sense as well.
Yes.
If someone comes in here and wants me to do something illegal, we have a very short conversation.
and that sort of thing is the doorknob on the way out.
The last word is off. The second last word you can work out.
Starts with a fire truck.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a fantastic expression that I've heard you use that I think sums up your philosophy very well, and a very good one, which is the old FIFO.
Yep.
And for those that know FIFO, I'm not talking about fly in, fly out. It has a similar implication, but the actual breakdowns are a little bit different.
You're not going to make me say it, are you?
No, I won't. No. It's
the
fit in
first bit is fit in or something.
Fly off.
Yeah. That's
but it probably sums up pretty well your approach to people, which very few people get to, in that particularly if you run your own business, quite often people will do any business just to pay the bills. But if you've got the fortitude and the integrity to say, well, no, I don't agree with what you're saying, or this doesn't feel right, let's not. Can you expand on that a bit, mate? Because that's a pretty rare quality.
Yeah, look, I don't know if it's a quality or me being stubborn or risk management or what it is. So don't get me wrong. You know, I'll work almost with anyone in any situation, but just every now and then you find an attitude in someone. You say, you're not going to fit here. I've made a decision a long time ago to work with and surround myself with good people like yourself and
good grief, mate, I'll pay you later.
Yeah. that one will cost you. Yeah, I think life can be challenging enough. Yeah. So let's find people that just want to get on and do it.
Yeah.
I want to find people that are invested in life, people that love life, enjoy it. Do we have to pay taxes in this life? Yeah.
Of course.
So that's something that you bear and you get on with making money. I tell people regularly, my goal is for you to pay $1 million a year in tax.
That's right, because if you're paying that much tax, you're making
you're making a lot of money. Some of them leave at that point, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Some of them get it and say, yeah, all right. Yeah. All right. I say, I'll do everything I can to legitimately minimise.
Yep.
But if you're making millions and millions and millions of dollars, you're not going to mind paying a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I think that when you get your head around programming yourself to go forwards rather than going backwards, I can get people out of tax. Just throw up your job, go on the dole, go surfing. You'll have a great time.
Yeah, well,
until you run out of money.
For a little while.
Yeah.
Not for very long.
And I think that summarises it to me in that life's about going forwards. Take responsibility, create your own future.
Yep.
Back yourself, always. Always, always back yourself, because no one will look after you the way you do.
Absolutely right.
And surround yourself with bloody good people.
Yeah, it's a real key. We're not on this journey for long, so we might as well be spending with people we actually enjoy spending the time. And I know I've shared this with you before. We've got a no wanker policy in our business, and perhaps it's because I've got a fair bit of grey hair these days. But I often say to people, look, you're deciding whether you want to do business with us. I'm actually sitting here thinking the same thing, and if at the end of the conversation it doesn't feel right, we're going to shake each other's hands and wish each other well, because it's the old story. You spend 80% of your time with problem child.
Yep.
That's never going to be right anyway. You might as well be putting that energy into people that really respond and enjoy it, and you're actually having some fun at the same time.
I don't think you had the grey hair when I met you either.
That's all your fault, mate.
I reckon I might be part of the cause.
I reckon you are, mate. But the good thing is I've still got it, so you've another challenge. You've got to turn me into a billiard ball, mate.
We can hold you down.
You've got 5 years to do it. Awesome, mate. Now, you mentioned there, we started touching on the subject of tax, and what I loved about when I first met you, and we felt very comfortable with you, both as an accountant but also as a person, mate. And I think people make decisions based on as much, not just your knowledge, but how well we relate and feel comfortable. But I remember you reviewing our tax at the time, and in those days you could go back 4 years, and I've said this many times, you put 20 grand back in my pocket legally.
Yep. By
just being smart about looking at optimising the situation, not doing anything untoward, but taking it right to the letter of the law. The subject of tax, I mean, everyone focuses on tax in this country, and I could, the number of people that say I pay too much tax.
They all say that. Don't worry about that. Everyone reckons they pay too much.
They do.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think what we like to do here is look at things and think about it.
Yep.
Anyone can pick the numbers up off the page and put them in the form and do that. Sometimes it's a question, and I'm very passionate about real estate, property, and I'm very passionate about business.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just a matter of looking at it, scratching my head. Every now and then, something bothers me and I'll go home, take some papers home, glass of wine, phone stops, and then you can sit and think it through and say, shit, I don't know, there has to be a better way to do this. And it's not, I don't hold the most knowledge in the world, but by hell I'll try.
Yeah, well, and
think
creative about looking at solutions rather than problems. Can you share with us any of the sorts of approaches or things that you are doing to assist people in relation to tax minimisation?
Yep, the biggest thing that we're finding at the moment, because the world is changing so fast, the tax law is changing, is planning.
Right.
So it's getting in front of the 8 ball.
Yes.
If you come to me on the 1st of July, it's too late.
Too late.
It's gone. There might be things you can do, there might be things I can look at that will help you fine-tune it.
Yep.
But 80% of that opportunity's passed by.
Yep.
So what we're saying to people is, unless your situation's is what it is and it's very stable and you know where you're at, just come in and have a chat.
Yeah.
Just give us the opportunity. The worst case scenario is you walk out and say, you're perfectly structured.
Yeah.
And that's a good conversation. I don't mind having that conversation.
Yeah. I bet you don't have it very often, though.
No, it doesn't happen a lot. Most people, if they're prepared to invest in themselves, and you are, you might pay a few dollars, but what do you get for free?
It's about value, not about cost, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Most people, we can save money. So why don't you think about this or structure that, or have you considered?
Yep.
And it's just about taking the time out from your busy life. Like I said earlier, life gets in the way.
It does.
And you need to book time to do the things you need to do. I put stuff in my diary and say every now and then I just need to get out and think about the business.
Yep.
That might involve a weekend away.
Yep.
It might involve just going out for lunch with some of the staff.
Yep.
And just to turn the phone off, turn the emails off, and remove yourself from distractions. To
give you the thinking time to reflect and which a lot of people don't. We have such busy lives these days that we're always reacting rather than stepping back and saying, okay, what do I need to be doing differently? And there's very few accountants that I've come across that actually do try to build in that strategy. It's effectively strategy times. Okay, ahead of the game, this is where you're at. If we do nothing, this is where you're going to get to. These are some suggestions on things that we can do to improve your position.
Yep.
Then people have, one, you've given them the knowledge, and two, you've actually given them time in advance to go, right, well, I can do this, and this is going to have a major impact on the end result.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I think the world has changed, and it's changed very quickly, and it's only going to change more rapidly.
Yeah.
And part of that is we're losing the ability to stop and think. Life happens too fast.
Yeah, dead right.
If you're not careful, and I've found you need to take a step back from life.
Yep.
If you don't strategize life will pass you by. I'll guarantee it. As sure as night follows day, you'll wake up one day and it's 80 years old and you'll say, where the bloody hell has the last 40 years gone?
That's right.
It will happen because it just, things will happen, things will get thrust in front of you. These mobile phones are a large part of the problem.
They are, aren't they?
Information is thrown at you faster than you can absorb it.
Buried in it.
And you can go through life and have a great time, but there's no plan. There's no strategy, there's no plan. So I think part of my, I don't know whether you call it success. Success is a variable word.
Well, but success, whatever your definition is, if you're achieving the success that you define as success, you're successful. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, well, in that case, I'm happy to put my hand up and say, by my definition,
spot on.
I lead a good life, I have some assets, I have a business, and the biggest part of it is I love my life. I enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think of work as work.
No, well, it's probably the reason that my wife Sonia and I have been with you so long, mate. You've got a passion for what you do. There's an energy that goes with that, and there's you're one of the few accountants I've met who's got a sense of humour and a personality. And
hard to believe in an accountant, isn't it?
but it's actually enjoyable sitting down and having those discussions with you because there is some energy and some there's some actual care there, mate. Which a lot of people go through the motions and they'll do the tax return, but a monkey could do that if you taught it the right way. I can see you get a lot of satisfaction out of opening people's eyes to the opportunity that they have in terms of making their money work better for them.
Yep.
And then setting them on a pathway that gives them some clarity and comfort around where they're heading.
I think you used the word satisfaction a second ago, and that's interesting. I think I woke up one day a few years ago, I had a bit of a health scare, and I realised that I don't work for money, I work for satisfaction. Money's important, don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean everything's free in life, but money's just a measuring stick.
Yeah. It's the oil that sort of lubricates the machine, isn't it, really?
It is. But I work for satisfaction more so than money. Maybe money's a secondary or a third goal. Yeah. But I work for the satisfaction of seeing people achieve their goals and achieving my goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very important to me.
Well, let's talk about that, mate. What are your goals? And let's, you run a very successful accounting practice and have for quite some time. And we've been massive supporters personally, but also referring people through to you, given the results that we've seen you achieve for people. What are your goals long term? What's your ideal lifestyle look like, and what are you going to invest in between now and then to make that happen? If it's any different to what it is now.
No, I knew you were going to bloody ask that question too, and. So I've given this a little bit of thought, and I think I'm leading my ideal lifestyle.
Brilliant.
There's times that maybe it needs 10-15% change, and that's perhaps learning to let go a little bit of work when I walk out the door.
Yep.
I don't want to do that in a big way.
No.
There's times I'd like to work a little bit less and travel a bit more.
Okay.
But if someone walked in the door and threw $5 million on the table, I'd take it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it would change too much.
No.
I don't.
Awesome.
I come here because I love what I do.
Yep.
I enjoy working with people. I enjoy helping them meet and achieve their goals.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay home and do nothing, so I'd find myself in here anyway. Even if I take holidays, I have to travel somewhere. Because if I stay home, I'll come into work and think.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. I actually enjoy work. There's no doubt about it. It's call me crazy, but I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. I really do. And if you took me away from it too long, I wouldn't know what to do.
How many people do you reckon enjoy work as a percentage?
Be very few, mate.
I don't think it's a lot.
No, unfortunately, it's not a lot. And
what defines that? Do you think what's the difference? Is it mindset?
I reckon it's mindset, but I think it's also the freedom that you enjoy, and you do have some freedom.
I do,
and I'm very much like you. We've in running our own business, we are in control of our time, and we can actually make that choice.
Yep.
A lot of people are dancing to someone else's tune, and they don't have they just don't have that choice.
No, I agree. I just realised I'm asking you questions too. So
no, this is good. This is a conversation. So, and this is awesome, mate, because this is not a firing squad with me giving you a cigarette and a blindfold and trying to expose your underbelly.
Don't worry about the blindfold. Just shoot right between the eyes, if you please,
mate. I'm a prolific reader, and all the reading I've done over time, what I've found is a lot of Australians, and it probably relates to what we're talking about right now, and that is that they focus on their career or their work, and they focus on the income side of that. But I don't see a lot of people investing in assets that are growing that will ultimately replace their income and give them the freedom of time and choice that they're ultimately chasing. You're an investor. You've shared some of that with me. Do you mind sharing with us what you've done in that regard to sort of park your income in and assets that are going to improve?
I can give you the Dutton philosophy if you like.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I have a philosophy for everything, so this is just
awesome.
one of them.
Let's get this one down.
I believe, and have done since quite young, that a proportion of your income should be converted into savings, assets, or something.
Brilliant. Is there a magic number?
No.
Depends on the person?
Depends on the person, depends on their lifestyle.
Is there a minimum?
Look, I'd like to think a minimum of 10%.
Yeah.
But if you're young couple, single income, mum's home with a baby or two, then you probably can't do that.
Yeah.
But alternatively, if you're in your mid-30s and you're earning $300,000 a year, you probably can do a lot more.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think if most people aimed for 10%, some will say I'm on crack and they can't do that. That's fine.
Or perhaps they're on crack and that's why they can't afford to do it. And this is really good, mate, because the challenge that I always have in taking people through this conversation, because I have this conversation with when people come to us for finance or to look at property, the first thing I say is, well, what's your ideal lifestyle look like and what are you investing in to get there? And quite often I get crickets. There's just, bushy, I'd never thought of that.
Imagine not thinking about what your ideal life is like.
Mate, it doesn't compute with me, but what I've come to realise is a lot of people, because they don't have time, they don't step back and even put some shape around that. How have you managed to get people thinking about the merits of putting a portion of their income into some form of savings plan? How have you got them motivated to go, oh, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea?
Geez, it's hard. Some people will do it, and some people will be incapable of getting the concept, which is sad to say. I think everyone knows what they have to do.
Okay.
But thought into action is a different story again. I'm big believer in, thought and planning are very important, critical.
Yep.
But if you don't put it into action, there's no bloody points.
Spot on.
So I think everyone knows that you should be saving, you should be doing something, you should build up a nest egg for retirement or a safety margin for a rainy day.
Yeah.
I try to encourage people to think about it.
Yeah.
I remember, and it's daunting at the start.
Yeah.
I think the things that you do sort of between 18 and 25 will largely shape your life.
Yep. Good call.
They will set you up in good habits or bad habits.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's probably the easiest time to save, but it's probably the time you're least likely to save because there's a lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot of fun out there, isn't there? Yeah.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot to do.
Yeah.
But I think putting aside 10% of your income then, one day you might have a house deposit.
Absolutely.
I don't know. But you do have to have a plan. And with what you talked about earlier, you have to have a strategy. Yeah,
well, what I find about having a strategy, if you're really clear on what your ideal life looks like, it automatically becomes a magnet because if it's exciting enough to you, and the difference between that and what you currently do, it becomes an awesome motivator.
Yeah.
And it's also a bit of a compass because if something comes across your table and you can go, well, that's either going to take me closer to that or further away, then suddenly you're making decisions that are going to help you navigate and get towards that end position.
Yep.
But yeah, as I say, I guess part of my frustration now is that with technology, we've got the ability now to automate a process really simply, and we do it with clients all the time now, where we set up a system which we call the automatic money management system, where once it's set in place, they don't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Perfect.
Yeah, because we pour everything into an offset account, have a credit card that is actually hidden. It never even gets near your wallet.
Good.
But pays all of your regular expenses, and like your rates and your electricity and all the rest of it, which is leaving money in the offset account, and then you automatically swipe that at the end of the month, and that pays off the credit card, so you never pay a cent of interest. And then have a debit card hanging off that, where you work out a budget, and a set amount of money every pay goes into that debit card, and when the debit card's spent, that is it. So if you run out before the next pay, you starve.
It's exactly what I do in my personal life.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I have a debit card.
Yep.
And money goes in every week.
Yep.
I call it my pay. Money goes in, that covers food, booze, rent, whatever else.
Yep.
And when it's out, it's out. It's gone. And that's my way of managing it, because I don't want to have to consciously plan or analyse every transaction, but I know what my fixed amount is every week.
Brilliant.
I could tell you, I won't tell you, I could tell you what my minimum dollar amount of savings is per year.
There you go.
I have a plan for that.
It's brilliant.
But I've only got to think about that once, and then it's all there.
Well,
I
that's
know
it, isn't
that's
it?
That's a weekly amount.
Yeah.
Every week out of the bank account comes X number of dollars.
Yep.
Goes into savings.
Yep.
I've thought about it once. I've done the banks have all the software, so you transfer it automatically, and I know what I'm going to save every year.
Yeah, brilliant.
And whether you put that into real estate or shares or a fine collection of really old red wine or or a nice collectible motor car, at least you're doing something.
Something that's growing in value and doesn't rely on you to actually have to sit there and physically do it to make it happen.
That's right. You set it, you get it going. You then just let it happen, and it's only time. I think, and I haven't got the figures in front of me, but I did some calculations for someone just as an aside several weeks ago.
Okay.
And said at 20, it's not that hard to become a millionaire. And I gave them the dollar figure each week that they needed to save, and it wouldn't
huge. Be much, would it?
No, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so by the time you're, say, 65 and retire, you'll have your superannuation. But if you put this in, and we assume a reasonable return, whether it's property or shares or something, and you'll have $1 million. It's not, and look, maybe I'm setting my sights too high. Maybe it's $500,000. It's not impossible. It just requires a bloody plan.
Well, and that's it. And then a regular commitment to it, and then once the plan's in place, don't stuff with it.
Set and forget.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, well, let's talk about your own investment journey then, because you've invested in a number of things over the years. Talk to us about what you invest in and why, and where you think that's going to get you to.
Financial and non-financial?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I've invested in myself, firstly.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
And you need to probably do that before you start thinking about the other side.
Yeah, and never stop doing that, actually.
Agree. Never stop doing that. And always back yourself. If you have a thought process and a judgment, have a sound reason for doing that.
Yeah.
And your gut feel is that, go with it.
Yeah.
Go with it, because you can only ever blame yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly. The mirror is a great friend or foe in that regard, for sure. Yep, okay.
So invested in that, invested in my lifestyle, but financially wise, I've always had a bent towards property.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's something that we can add value to. I like the fact it's real.
Yep.
It's tangible.
Yep.
If something in the world goes and melts down, property is largely within our control.
Yeah, true.
If you invest in shares in, let me hypothetically pick on the banks at the moment, because everyone is.
We might as well get into them, yep.
It's also one of my favourite targets. Actually, probably can you delete that bit? I need them.
Yeah, we all need the banks, yep.
But you've got someone else making decisions on behalf of your money, and you're a very small share.
Yeah.
So companies have failed.
Yeah.
I did, in my earlier years, I did a lot with shares.
Okay.
I was
as in personally investing in them.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I did. I traded them.
Yeah, right.
Some well, some not so well.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of buying the subscription to Rene Rivkin's right before he was locked up, or whatever it was happened to him in the end. But I bought shares on his recommendation to, I think, was it Pazminko?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right
Remember
before
that?
they fell over. So I burnt 20 grand in one hit.
Wow.
That one hurt.
Yeah.
By all, and I think he was using me and others to sell his shares out, so he didn't take the hit.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
Not sure if I'm legally allowed to say that, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure you're fine.
Allegedly, whatever.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly covers a range of sins. I'm not opposed to shares.
Sure.
But I like the fact with property, you're in control.
Yeah.
You're in the driver's seat. People are always going to need somewhere to live.
Yes.
Industries come and go.
Yeah.
Industries are changing very quickly at the moment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of industries and businesses out there that 10 years ago were world leaders.
And now they're out of business or gone. Exactly.
Yeah,
and similarly others that didn't exist then that are now
multi-millionaires.
Absolutely.
I remember looking, when I first got to that point, I wanted to go into business. I remember I looked at a range of options.
Yeah.
And I talked to my old man, who's a fairly astute observer of things in the world. So I'm thinking about a video shop.
What did he say?
He said, you'd have to be crazy. He said, that won't exist. Those things will not exist.
Good read. Very good read.
Yeah. He was a long way in front. He said the internet's coming in. Internet was something that you dialed up to once a day in those days. It didn't exist on your phone. You had that old modem that would go beep, 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 beep.
That's right. I remember
and
that.
you'd connect, it'd take you an hour and a half, and you'd download your email. And then you'd shut it off and use your phone for household calls or business calls.
Yep.
No. Movies cannot come down that line. I said, I think you're crazy. I didn't do it, fortunately. So he probably saved me about $300,000.
Yeah.
Because that's what sort of price they were selling for in those
Wow,
days.
they were worth a lot of money in the early days, weren't they, the old video stores? Yeah,
Yep.
That's it. So have you invested in businesses along the journey so far, mate, at all?
I've got my own business, obviously, that I started, so that wasn't a huge investment. I invested my time in it. I invested some, but minimal capital.
Yep.
I've been reluctant to buy into other people's businesses.
Yeah,
because
for the same reasons, I guess.
Yeah, I think you put your stamp on it, and unless it's someone that's you're probably paying an awful lot of money to buy something that is the heart and soul of someone else.
Yeah.
In which case, my heart and soul is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It just hasn't been for me at this stage.
Yeah, I often say that a good judge of how good a investment asset is how much the banks are going to be prepared to lend against it, because the banks are about making money.
Yeah.
And let's face it, they do very well at
Yeah,
that, and their profits keep climbing year on year. And the fact that they'll still borrow up to 95% on a property versus half that when it comes to shares and equities is probably a bit of an indication of its risk level.
Yep.
And I often say that's a fairly good guide if you're looking for a safe vehicle, but then using that bank's money to actually leverage your position so that your exposure to the size of the asset is significantly higher. Then even if shares and property grow at the same rate, which if you look at over the last 100 years
or so, it's similar.
It's hair splitting.
Yep.
Then you're likely to be in a better position with property than you are the others. And there's a lot of people that, I keep reading the stories about the property bubble and all the rest of it, but we've got really strong and ongoing population growth. We do have a major decrease in the size of our families. So we've gone from 3.4 to 2.4 over the last 20 odd years, which effectively has put 50% extra pressure on housing need. Then providing our incomes are going to be strong enough to support it, I just don't think there's any reason why property won't continue to perform in very specific areas. So it's
agreed.
It's locationally driven now, not every property.
It's not mass. I think the days of buying a property and doubling your money every 12 months, it's gone.
Gone. I think property's a 15-year proposition in reality.
Agreed. You shouldn't, with all the government costs, you shouldn't buy it unless you're prepared to hold it for at least 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in my experience, the people that have done very well out of it are the people that have bought it and held it and forgotten about it. I still use the example of the elderly, well, not necessarily elderly, but the European immigrant.
Yep.
A lot of them came here after the war, built a block of flats, rented them, and now 30 or 40 years later, they've done very well.
Yeah.
But if you asked them 10 years after they did it how they were going, it might have been a really different answer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a good model that we can use and follow and say, no one's going to get rich quick.
No.
If you do,
exist.
Good luck to you, but you're probably taking an obscene amount of risk.
And it'll be a fluke.
Yeah, that's right. And if it happens, that's great. Good luck. I wish you luck. I salute you.
Yeah.
But for those of us that don't want to risk everything, I'm not going to walk into the casino and throw my life savings on black.
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
But I am prepared to take a 20 or 30-year plan.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember when I was in uni, I think I did a 40-year plan.
There you go. There's not too many people.
How boring is that?
No, it's awesome, mate. And what form did that take? Was that a written thing or a spreadsheet or
just a spreadsheet?
Yep.
In line with my, the savings numbers that I talked about and what I would anticipate doing.
Yep.
But I did do a 40-year plan, which would take me through to age 60 or mid-60s.
You still got it?
I would have it somewhere. I throw nothing away, ever.
Yeah.
I would have it somewhere. I know roughly the numbers, and I know I'm in front of the projections at this stage.
Love it. Is that sort of planning something you can do for clients, mate, that will help shape their direction and what they need to do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Because, again, very few people even have that conversation, let alone give them a tool that might help give them a bit of a roadmap.
It's not something that we do a lot of.
Sure.
And we probably wouldn't do it specifically. The cost might be a little bit prohibitive.
Of course.
The key is to get a plan, and I have a list of family mottos behind the kitchen door at home that I've created for the kids, and none of them are in Latin.
Can you share a couple of those?
I can share a couple. Yeah. Number one on the list, and they're all numbered.
Yeah, brilliant.
So if something comes up and the kids look at me and I say, go and look at the family motto board, number one.
What is it?
Number one is just do it.
Yeah.
Yep. So too many people have a plan. I think everyone knows what they need to do to become financially independent.
Yeah.
Putting it into action seems to be the roadblock. I don't know why. So number one is just do it. I'm not going to share too many more with you, but one is FIFO that we talked about.
Yeah. Is there any others that you're happy to share?
I can't think of anything specifically off the top of the list, but the key one is just get on with it.
Yeah.
Just
do something.
If there was one thing that I notice in people, and I don't know whether it's we're time poor or struggle to make decisions or risk averse or what it is, but people struggle to put thought into action.
Yeah. Probably a combination of all of those, really.
Yeah. Yep.
And fear. I think there's a fair bit of fear driving it. What if I get it wrong? Versus, and this conversation I have with a lot of people is, okay, let's assume you do nothing differently. I'm going to project where that's going to get you to. And are you happy with that?
Roughly the same place you are today.
Yeah.
Not a lot's going to change if you don't change something.
And mate, the stats are scary. I think I've shared this with you before. According to the Bureau of Stats, the average amount that people over 65 survive on in Australia at the moment is $15,300 a year, which is $295 a week.
Yeah, it's not the way I picture living my life. And, far be it from me to criticise people, I don't. It's their God-given right to choose to do nothing if they want to. And that's okay. And there's lots of people I know that are fascinating people that I love to catch up and have a beer with. Yeah. That choose not to do this stuff.
Yep.
That's fine. We have a beer, we have a laugh, and I get on with doing what I want and plan to do, and helping other people that are similarly interested and driven.
Yeah.
But I don't picture leading my life on $300 a week.
Man,
So-
that's about my wine budget a week, I think, mate, quite honestly. So,
and for those that are listening, that's actually true. I know, that's pretty
why
close.
I'm still smiling, mate. Yeah, no, but the thing is, a lot of people they're not even aware that that's where it's heading. That there's this concept that, well, if I just pay off my home and then I'll live off my super and the pension. Well, the pension, if you can get the pension's 34 grand a year for a couple.
That's for a couple. Yeah.
That's for a couple, mate.
It's
And
about
24 or something for single, is it? It's about that?
Yeah, something like that.
Mate, you convert that into how much that gives you a week. That's just living on the smell of an oily rag.
You're also assuming that it will still be there when young fellas like you and I get to that age.
It's closer for me
or
than it is
assuming
you,
we'll
but-
still be alive. With my list of hobbies, I wouldn't like to guarantee that.
Well, let's talk about that. You talked about before about you've got a fear of heights,
Yeah.
and yet you've got your pilot's license.
Yes.
How does that work?
Not sure.
Have you challenged yourself and said, "But I'm gonna have a crack at this thing and overcome that fear," or is it something else?
Yeah, no, it was largely a challenge. I do need to challenge myself regularly. It was a challenge to learn something new
Yeah,
because I find I go stale if I'm not moving the boundaries or switching the goalposts around or pushing the envelope a little bit.
Yep.
Love it to death. Really do enjoy it. Love flying. It was a big challenge. I think if I'd learned at 18, I would have picked it up a lot quicker and been a lot better at it.
Yep.
Like learning to drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get as scared of the heights, except in a few different circumstances where they...
Get up on ladders.
No, I'm thinking of the aeroplane. It's only, things like stall practicing where your plane's falling out of the sky.
And that's something you physically do.
That's part of the training. Yeah,
Holy moly.
Yep, and there's people that are a lot more experienced than me that will talk you through it, but
Mate,
I found it a lot scary.
Oh, I'd need a nappy. I think if I was trying that on, mate. It's
The training is good.
Yeah.
It's good. It does teach you how to react in emergencies and different situations.
it would do.
But that was the bit that I found the most challenging.
Be pretty confronting if you're in a tin can in the sky and they turn the engines off.
Yeah, can we not call it a tin can? I've got to do this again. State-of-the-art piece of aero technology.
Sounds far
I'll
nicer
sleep a
when you
lot
say it
better,
like
yeah.
that.
So I needed to challenge my fear of heights. People tell you if you confront it, you'll beat it.
Yeah.
That may be the case, not for me.
Yeah, okay. So it's feel the fear and have a crack anyway, and then just bear with it on the way through.
Fear exists, and I don't know anyone I can think of that doesn't fear something.
Yeah.
I think you have to learn to live with it and confront it. I got put through a situation on a management training course years ago where I had to abseil out of an 8-story building.
Wow.
And at the time I said, yep, I'll turn up, I'll spend the day with the team, I'll do all the right things, but I ain't even climbing that damn building.
Did you do it?
I climbed it.
Did you really?
Yeah, yep, there was a lady that I was working with, and she said, there's 2 ropes.
Yeah.
She said, you're up here now. I reckon we can do this and go down side by side.
Okay.
And we'll talk and we'll communicate and we'll walk. None of this fancy jumping, none of this show-off stuff where you go face down and bounce. Oh, no, a lot of people were doing it, running down forwards.
Holy hell.
She said, we'll just walk one step at a time. I don't care if it takes an hour. We'll do it together. We'll be there. We'll be 3 feet apart or whatever it is, and we'll be communicating the whole way and talking.
Yeah.
You had spent a day doing trust exercises building up to it.
Okay.
Learning to hang on the end of a rope and so forth.
Yeah.
So we got up the top. There's 2 ropes. I managed to get outside the building, and she froze and couldn't get out.
You're kidding
I'm
me.
not.
She froze.
She froze and wouldn't get out.
And she's the instructor, or she's a...
No, she was just a colleague.
Wow. So did you coach her down, or...?
No, she couldn't get out the building.
It's hilarious.
She had pushed me to the point I did it.
Yeah.
And then she froze and couldn't get outside the building. I think it was the slowest abseil in history. It took a long while. It was 1 step at a time.
Mate.
I focused on a little square about 30 centimetres by 30 centimetres in front of my face.
Yeah.
I didn't look down. I didn't look up. I didn't look sideways. I just 1 step at a time, focus on that 30 centimetre square. There was a lot of encouragement from the team, and that was great.
Yeah.
That really helped.
Yeah.
And I communicated with the people on the ground, and I remember calling out at one stage saying, hey, my foot's just bumping something, I'm not looking down.
Yeah.
I'm not snagged, but I can feel something.
What was it?
It was the ground.
So you really were focused on that little square?
I was that focused, I had no idea I was on the ground.
Wow, that's awesome, mate.
Yeah.
But how did you feel when you stepped out off that ledge and she didn't?
I could have killed her. And once you're out,
There's
you
no
couldn't
going
get back in.
is there?
No. It might be that someone that does this a lot could get back, but not me.
No, mate. Well, it's probably a. I mean, if you look at your life journey so far, mate, the ability to step up to challenges is obviously something that's ingrained. It's like if I tell you can't, then you're probably going to tell me.
I probably will.
You watch me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because there's not too many people who, with a fear of heights, are going to get behind the joystick on a plane.
I remember at the time I did the abseiling, we were doing it with the Star Force.
Yep.
Who I have to say
Wow.
were very professional, very good. Good and fun bunch of blokes.
Mm.
And one of them who knew me and how much challenged I was and having trouble doing it, he said, "You've conquered your fear of heights now, come up and do it again." I said, "No way. No, I haven't conquered anything. I've perhaps pushed through the pain barrier.
Yeah.
And my legs are so weak and jellyish at the moment, I couldn't even walk up those stairs again."
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I said, if I did, I don't think I could get outside again. I've done it.
But mentally, you've gone, right, well, I've done it. Because you've proven it to yourself, no one else really, haven't you?
I've ticked that box. I didn't need to tick that box.
No.
In my own mind, I never had an interest in abseiling.
No.
But I managed to push myself beyond the fear barrier or pain barrier or whatever it was.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people, we're so comfortable in Australia, we've got it so good that we often miss the opportunity to be great because it's like, oh, I'll just sit here in my comfort zone and the world will look after itself, which is probably the difference between them and yourself in relation to going, okay, well, I'm going to have a crack at this.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's stubbornness or what. Maybe I was, born with some kind of mental defect. I'm not sure, but I do like to have a go at things.
Yeah.
Well, call it interest, call it whatever you like. Maybe I was just wired differently.
Yeah, but coming from a very shy person, because I would have staggered to hear that you were shy, mate. That's I've known you for a long time, and I would never have known that you were shy. Mm. So you've obviously either consciously or unconsciously continued to challenge yourself along the road. Let's talk about the future for a minute, then. Where are you heading? What, if anything's going to be different, and what are you focusing on now individually and as a business that people might be interested to hear about?
As a business, we're focusing on our niche and increasing our niche clients, particularly those that have an interest in similar passions as what we do.
Do you want to talk about what that niche is?
As we've sort of talked about, it's either property or business usually. They're the sort of niches that we have a little bit of a passion for, and we think that we can provide people with a really good service.
Absolutely.
And it makes it more fun to come to work if the people coming in the door are on the same page.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's probably more likely to be where our growth will come from, and always happy to pick and work with those sorts of people if they're interested and a little bit passionate. Then we'd love to meet them and see if we can help them out.
Yeah, I'd just jumping in on that, mate. From Sonia and my own experience with you, I often say this to people: just because an accountant's good at doing your tax doesn't mean he's going to understand property. And as you know far better than I, there's a 1,000 nuances in the tax rulings that are related to property, and unless you're dealing with an accountant who understands them, and quite often, I'd say to people, if a person's not investing in something that they're suggesting you do, that one, they're not going to understand it, and two, they're not going to have the same commitment to seeing it through. I can certainly say firsthand for myself and a lot of the clients and investors that we've referred through to you, the difference that Dave and we have experienced in relation to your ability to really optimise the property performance, and I generally say to people the most important person in relation to the property is your accountant, because if it's structured well, it's set up in the right way from day one, then property can be a really easy journey for you. But if you don't, if you stuff it up initially, it's probably the reason why I think there's over 80% of people who invest in property only have one. And would you believe, of those that do invest in property, over 50% sell it within the first 5 years.
Really?
Yep. That's the current stats according to the ATO.
Wow.
So it's a massive number, and I know that most of that issue is because they haven't spoken to a good accountant from day one. They haven't structured and set it up in a way that's going to be affordable to hold, and or they'll buy the wrong property.
I wonder if they've had false expectations
maybe that's
thrown
it.
to them. There's a lot of... what would I say? Can I say this legally? I don't know. You'll cut it out if it's illegal. But there's a lot of what I'd call dodgy spruikers out there with property.
Yeah,
I really am very comfortable being part of a team and having a team with... I think part of the key with property is you have a good broker.
Yep.
And you do all mine, so that's what sent you grey. You have a good property manager.
Yeah.
And if you're building, you also have a good relationship with a builder or someone to complete the package for you. But what we find is a lot of people that have come to us, not the ones coming from you, but have had these unrealistic expectations put on them, where someone that might be spruiking property has said, oh no, you just need to sign here, we'll fix it all, and you'll be rich next week. It just doesn't happen. It's a long-term, safe and sensible investment generally.
Yeah.
You surround yourself with a good team and it's stress-free.
Yeah.
If you go in with a get-rich-quick attitude, and I wonder... I wasn't aware of the statistics, so that's interesting, because we don't, through our practice, we don't see that number of statistics.
Yes, okay.
So that might mean that, or that might be part of the FIFO attitude, I don't know. Those people don't come or don't last long.
Yeah, well, I know, and you've pointed out really well, a big part of what we do when we talk to people about property is set their expectations right from the get-go.
Yep.
And I say to them, it's a 15 to 20-year journey. And the good part about it is if you set it up well, you can get on with what you do well, and that's focus on your career, your work and your family. And if we get this set up in the right way with the help of a good accountant and then manage it well with a really good property manager, that's going to look after itself pretty much. You might spend an hour a month having a look at your statements to make sure it's right, and then give all of that to the accountant at the end of the year. That's about as much as you need to do.
Yeah, yep. I'm not emotionally invested in these properties.
Me either.
You know, your good wife Sonia looks after some and others, and I get my reports, and I've got some properties that are 5 minutes from home that I haven't been past in 6 months. I just don't see any reason to drive down the street.
Well, they're money boxes in the shape of a house, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
And if kebabs were giving you better return with the same sort of energy, I'd be investing in kebabs, mate.
Kebabs, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure kebabs are too safe. And if I was investing in red wine, I wouldn't store it at your place or my place either. So,
right.
So kebabs might fit into the same sort of equation. I'm not sure.
Says a lot about my diet, really, doesn't it? Awesome, mate. Well, look, it's been an awesome conversation. If those have been listening are keen to get in touch with you, mate, to see what you can do to assist them, how do they do that?
Love to have a chat to anyone. The phone number 1300 728 048, and one of the lovely ladies here will make a time.
Yep.
Or we can have a quick chat over the phone, or alternatively Tony at conceptaccountants.com.au.
Yeah, Concept Accountants, yep, which is a great name for the business, mate. Concept Accountants, I love that. Okay, mate, look, I really appreciate you spending some time. I know you're very busy at what you do. What I'd like to do is have the opportunity, given that we're in a very interesting and evolving landscape at the moment, both from the property and the finance and the accounting spheres, is revisit a chat with you. We may even do some Q&A sessions for people who have a burning question that they need an answer to. If you're up for it, would love to get you on board to do some of that.
Absolutely, love to, as long as you don't laugh at any more of my silly hobbies or anything like that. So, I'm sure there'll be some more stupid stories
mate,
as well.
I'm an excuse to laugh at you, mate.
You don't usually need excuses. But yeah, I would love to have a chat again.
Brilliant, mate. Look, it's been an awesome chat. We've scratched the surface. Look forward to doing it again. But thanks, Tony, and we'll talk to you soon, mate.
Thanks so much, Bushy.
How good was that? I hope you enjoyed it. To get a summary of all the investment gold and to get a copy of the show notes, email me on hello@khgroup.com.au. That's HELLO@khgroup.com.au. Or check us out at www.khgroup.com.au/get invested. And join me next week for another episode of the Get Invested podcast. Thanks for listening, and as always, dream as if you'll live forever and live as if you'll die tomorrow.